Most people assume gardening season is over once November rolls around. They pack away their tools, lock up the shed, and say goodbye to their flower beds until spring. But here's something few gardeners realize. November might actually be the best month to plant if you want a breathtaking burst of color next year. In this video, I'll show you exactly which perennials thrive when planted in the cold, the same time everyone else has given up on their gardens. Welcome back to Golden Garden Wisdom, the place where real gardeners share practical advice that works, not just magazine-perfect tips. I'm Ishtab, and I'm truly excited to have you here. Whether you've been part of our gardening family for years or this is your very first visit, you're in good company. Here we keep things simple, honest, and grounded in real experience. To everyone who's been part of this journey, thank you. Your questions, stories, and garden successes are what make this community so special. Before we dig in, do me a small favor. Tap that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Trust me, you'll want to see what's coming next. And if you enjoy learning something new today, give this video a thumbs up. It helps more gardeners discover these tips. Let me know in the comments where you're gardening from. I love hearing from you all. A few years back, I tossed some perennial seeds into the soil one chilly November afternoon. My neighbor chuckled and told me it was pointless. The ground was nearly frozen. But come spring, those seedlings burst through stronger and healthier than any I'd ever started indoors. They bloomed earlier too. That's when I learned something important. Mother Nature knows what she's doing. Sometimes the smartest thing we can do is let her take the lead. So today, let's explore 9 fantastic perennials you can plant right now. Yes, even in November, for stunning color that returns year after year. Why planting in November works. Before we get to the plant list, let's talk about why fall planting makes sense. Many perennial seeds actually need a cold period before they'll germinate. This natural process is called cold stratification. It's like the seed needs to experience winter before it wakes up in spring. When you plant in November, nature handles this process for you. The seeds sit quietly through the freezing and thawing cycles of winter, and by the time spring arrives, they're perfectly primed to grow. The soil is cool enough that seeds won't sprout too soon, even if there's an occasional warm spell. They stay dormant until the weather is truly ready. Plus, the ground is usually still workable in November, so you can easily get your seeds in without battling frozen soil. This method is far simpler than trying to start seeds indoors under grow lights or heating mats. You're working with nature, not against her. Perennial 1. Echinacea, the resilient purple beauty. Let's start with one of my all-time favorites, Echinacea, also known as purple coneflower. It's a tough, reliable perennial that's absolutely perfect for November planting. A few years ago, I scattered Echinacea seeds into a quiet garden bed late in the season. The air was crisp, the soil cool. It felt like winter was right around the corner. Honestly, I wasn't sure they'd survive, but when spring came, those tiny seedlings pushed through as if nothing had happened. By the following summer, my garden was filled with stunning pink-purple blooms that drew butterflies and bees from everywhere. Here's why it works. Echinacea seeds need cold weather to break dormancy. If they don't get that, they won't germinate properly. Planting in November gives them exactly what they require: natural exposure to winter's chill. Once established, Echinacea plants are almost indestructible. They tolerate drought, resist deer, and need very little care. When planting, choose a sunny spot with well-drained soil, scatter the seeds on the surface, and press them down gently. Don't bury them deep because they need light to sprout. Water if it's dry, but if you're getting winter rain or snow, let nature do the work. By spring, you'll see sturdy little plants that'll reward you with blooms in summer and year after year afterward. The best part? Echinacea reseeds itself, so your garden will naturally fill in with more color over time. Perennial 2. Rudbeckia, the golden cheerleader. If Echinacea is the graceful lady of the garden, Rudbeckia, or Black-Eyed Susan, is the bright, cheerful friend who always lifts your mood. These golden yellow blooms with dark centers are pure sunshine, and they're wonderfully easy to grow, especially when planted in November. I once sprinkled Rudbeckia seeds along a dull, empty fence line one gloomy fall day. By the next summer, that area was a sea of gold. It completely transformed the space. Rudbeckia is incredibly forgiving. It tolerates poor soil, heat, humidity, and cold winters. Once it's established, it practically takes care of itself. The kind of plant that makes you look like a gardening pro with minimal effort. When planted in November, the seeds rest safely through winter, waiting for the perfect moment to sprout in spring. They're not tricked by random warm spells. They simply bide their time until conditions are ideal. Here's how to do it. Loosen the soil, remove weeds, and scatter the seeds evenly. Lightly rake them in, just about a 1/4 inch deep. Water gently if the ground's dry. Otherwise, let rain or snow handle it. By next spring, you'll understand why Black-Eyed Susans are such a beloved classic. They'll fill your garden with color, spread naturally over the years, and make beautiful cut flowers for your home. Make sure you're subscribed to Golden Garden Wisdom so you don't miss our next videos on winter garden care and spring prep, because the best gardens are the ones that start before spring even begins. Perennial 3. Aquilegia, the graceful dancer. If you're craving something a bit more delicate and whimsical, let me introduce you to Aquilegia, better known as columbine. These blooms look like tiny fairies twirling through your garden, each flower adorned with charming spurred petals in shades of purple, pink, white, blue, or yellow. One chilly November, I decided to sow columbine seeds in a lightly shaded patch beneath my trees, a spot where not much else seemed happy to grow. The leaves were falling, the air was crisp, and it definitely didn't feel like planting weather. But I'd learned that columbines actually prefer fall planting and thrive when they get that natural cold period we've talked about. By spring, tiny seedlings began to appear, soft blue-green leaves that looked so fragile I doubted they'd survive. But by their second year, the plants were draped in elegant nodding blooms that danced above the foliage. Every morning, hummingbirds visited them while I sipped my coffee. It felt like a quiet celebration of life after winter's gray months. Columbines are ideal for woodland or cottage-style gardens, especially in spots that get partial shade to full sun. They aren't fussy about soil as long as it drains well. Once established, they're surprisingly drought-tolerant, a contrast to their delicate appearance. When planting in November, sprinkle the seeds on loosened soil and barely cover them. They need light to germinate. Press them gently into the surface and water if it's dry. Through winter, they'll receive the cold stratification they need, staying dormant until spring. Here's something to keep in mind. Columbines are short-lived perennials, lasting about 3 to 4 years. But they're generous reseeders. Once you plant them, they'll return year after year, often popping up in unexpected spots. Over time, as they self-seed and cross-pollinate, you'll get beautiful new color variations. Your garden essentially paints its own masterpiece. And it all begins with those few seeds you scattered on a chilly November day. Perennial 4, Delphinium, the majestic tower. If you've ever dreamed of having those tall, dramatic flower spires seen in classic English gardens, Delphinium is what you're after. These stately plants produce striking vertical spikes in shades of blue, purple, pink, and white, true showstoppers. I'll be honest, I used to find Delphiniums intimidating. They're known for being finicky and high maintenance. But once I discovered how well they grow from November planting, everything changed. The plants that start outdoors in fall turn out stronger and hardier than those started under lights indoors. My first try was in mid-November. The soil was cool but still workable, so I prepared a rich, well-drained bed. Delphiniums dislike sitting in wet soil over winter. I scattered the seeds, covered them lightly, about a 1/4 inch deep, watered gently, and left the rest to nature. Come spring, sturdy little seedlings emerged. They didn't bloom that first year, but by early summer of the second, I had tall, breathtaking blue flower towers reaching nearly 5 feet high. Visitors couldn't stop staring. They were far more resilient than the indoor-grown ones my neighbor had planted. Here's why fall planting works so well. Delphinium seeds require cold stratification and benefit from winter's natural moisture cycles. When planted in November, they rest safely through cold months and emerge ready to thrive in spring. For best results, plant in full sun and give them some shelter from strong winds. Those towering spikes can get top-heavy. Enrich the soil with compost before sowing, then cover the seeds lightly and water if needed. Once growing, delphiniums do appreciate some extra care. Consistent moisture, staking for tall stems, and a mid-season feeding all help. The reward is absolutely worth it. Grand, colorful spikes that may even bloom twice a year if you trim back the first round. They're the wow plants that make people stop and ask, "How did you grow those?" And you can proudly say, "It started with seeds I planted in November." Perennial 5, Lupine, the bold statement. If your goal is to add bold color and architectural flair, lupines are calling your name. Their tall, dense flower spikes come in dazzling shades: purples, blues, pinks, whites, yellows, and even multicolored blends. They bring a dramatic sculptural look to any garden. I actually grew my first lupines by accident. I'd scattered a wildflower seed mix one November without realizing it contained lupine seeds. I wasn't expecting much, the soil was cold, and winter was fast approaching. But the following spring, unique palm-shaped leaves emerged, and by their second year, towering spikes of vibrant blooms took over the space. It was magical. After months of gray skies, those bold flower columns felt like nature's joyful announcement that spring had returned. Lupines are native to many regions and have become garden favorites worldwide. Think of the breathtaking fields in New Zealand, or the Pacific Northwest, where they paint entire landscapes with color. What makes lupines ideal for November planting is their hard seed coat. It softens naturally through the freeze-thaw cycles of winter, allowing moisture in and promoting strong germination in spring. Some gardeners nick or soak the seeds before planting, but when you plant in fall, nature does that job for you. Choose a sunny location with well-draining soil. This is essential since waterlogged soil can rot the seeds. Because lupines develop deep taproots, they dislike being moved, so direct sowing in autumn is perfect. Plant the seeds about a 1/4 inch deep, or simply press them into the surface, and lightly cover them if the soil is firm. By the second spring, those towering flower spikes will transform your garden. The bold structure, rich color, and sheer presence will make your space unforgettable. And the best part? It all started with a handful of seeds planted on a cold November afternoon. Perennial number 6, Campanula, the graceful bellflower. If you want to bring a touch of softness and charm to your November garden, Campanula, affectionately known as bellflower, is a wonderful choice. Its delicate, bell-shaped blooms in shades of blue, lavender and white create a soothing, romantic atmosphere. What makes Campanula truly special is its adaptability. It looks just as lovely tucked into a cottage garden as it does cascading through a rock garden or spilling gracefully from a container. I remember one brisk November afternoon planting tiny Campanula seeds between stones in a small rock bed. The air was crisp and I questioned if it was worth the effort. I pressed the seeds gently into the cool soil and left them to face the winter. When spring arrived, I was greeted by the tiniest green shoots. By the second summer, those same plants had transformed the space into a sea of soft blue bells dancing over the rocks, absolutely breathtaking. Campanulas come in many forms, tall ones for borders, mid-height for mixed beds, and compact varieties perfect for pots. Once established, they're hardy, long-lived and well-suited for late fall planting since their seeds benefit from cold stratification. Simply scatter the seeds over moist, well-drained soil, press them lightly without covering, and let nature handle the rest. By their second year, they'll bloom beautifully and return every season, attracting bees and other pollinators. Perennial number 7, Digitalis, foxglove, a fairy tale flower. Few flowers capture imagination quite like the foxglove. With its tall, elegant spikes covered in speckled tubular blooms of pink, purple, cream, and apricot, it feels like something out of a storybook. The first time I grew foxgloves from seeds sown in November, it felt as if I had brought a piece of an English cottage garden right into my backyard. I sprinkled the fine seeds mixed with sand over a shaded patch of soil, and by spring, tiny rosettes appeared. They stayed low that first year, quietly preparing. Then the following spring, towering stems, some nearly 6 feet tall, rose and burst into bloom. Watching bumblebees crawl in and out of the blossoms was pure magic. Foxgloves are usually biennials. They grow leaves the first year and bloom the second before reseeding themselves generously. November sowing gives them the cold and light they need to start this natural cycle. Choose a spot with partial shade in warm regions or full sun in cooler ones. Press the seeds lightly onto the soil surface and don't cover them. Just remember, foxgloves are toxic if eaten, so keep them away from pets and small children. Their beauty, charm, and value to pollinators make them a rewarding addition to any garden, adding that dreamy old-world charm gardeners adore. Perennial number 8, Shasta Daisy, the garden classic. You can never go wrong with the timeless Shasta Daisy. With crisp white petals surrounding bright yellow centers, this flower radiates cheerful simplicity. It's hardy, dependable, and a true classic in cottage and cutting gardens alike. One frosty November, I scattered Shasta Daisy seeds along a sunny border, hoping for that traditional summer look. The seeds slept through winter and sprouted the following spring. By the second summer, their joyful blooms lit up the garden. Shasta daisies love full sun and well-drained soil, and late fall planting works beautifully since the seeds appreciate a natural cold period. Simply press the seeds onto the soil surface and let nature do the rest. Once established, they form spreading clumps that bloom for 4 to 6 weeks or longer. They make excellent cut flowers and mix beautifully with nearly any perennial. Deadheading will keep them blooming longer. Reliable, radiant, and effortlessly charming, they're the perfect finale to this list. Perennial number 9. Coreopsis, the sunshine spreader. If happiness were a flower, it would be Coreopsis. These cheerful daisy-like blooms in yellow, gold, orange, pink, or red bring warmth and brightness to any garden. They're low maintenance, drought-tolerant, and ideal for November sowing. One year, I scattered Coreopsis seeds along a pathway in late fall, pressing them gently into the soil and leaving the rest to nature. By spring, the seedlings appeared, and that first summer offered a light sprinkling of golden blooms. The following year, the display was breathtaking, waves of color lasting from late spring through fall. Coreopsis thrives in poor soil, heat, and even drought, making it one of the toughest and most forgiving perennials. November planting gives the seeds a natural cold treatment that boosts germination. Pick a sunny location, scatter the seeds, press them lightly, and you're done. Once settled, they ask for little more than occasional deadheading, and even if you forget, they keep on blooming. Butterflies love them, and they spread gently, creating natural drifts of sunshine wherever they grow. Practical tips for November planting. November gardening isn't about perfection, it's about preparation. Even if the soil is cool or slightly frozen, you can still sow successfully. Clear debris, loosen the top couple of inches, and make sure the area drains well. After sowing, mark your spots carefully. By spring, you might forget where you planted. Use stones, labels, or take a quick photo for reference. Water lightly once. If the soil is dry, then let winter rain or snow do the rest. Don't worry if snow covers your garden. It actually insulates the soil, protecting seeds from temperature swings and providing moisture as it melts. Remember, many perennials won't bloom until their second year, so be patient. Growing perennials is an act of faith, and when they finally flower, the reward is beyond words. The deeper meaning of November planting. There's something quietly profound about planting in November. The garden seems still, the season fading, yet beneath the soil, life is already beginning again. To plant now is to plant hope.
You're trusting that in the dark and cold, transformation is taking place unseen. It's a powerful metaphor for life. Not all growth happens in the light. Sometimes it happens in silence, beneath the surface. And when spring comes and you see those tiny shoots breaking through, it feels like witnessing a miracle, a reminder that patience and faith always bear fruit. Final thoughts. So there you have it. 9 perennials that thrive when planted in November. Echinacea, Rudbeckia, Aquilegia, Delphinium, Lupine, Campanula, Digitalis, Coreopsis, and Shasta Daisy. Each one brings its own beauty, resilience, and joy to your garden. Remember, gardening in November isn't about endings, it's about beginnings. It's a quiet promise to your future garden, a gesture of faith in the life that stirs beneath the frost. So bundle up, head outside, and plant something beautiful today. Come spring, you'll be so glad you did. Thank you for watching and being part of this gardening community. Until next time, keep growing, keep learning, and never stop believing in the magic of a seed.